Hi, my name is Billy Hoffman, and I plan to drink all of these while I'm speaking to you tonight. Yes, not simultaneously. Tom and I were at a conference in Atlanta once, SummerCon, and yes, I don't drink beer usually. These are girly Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I was so drunk at some point I tried to drink simultaneously from 3 bottles of beer like this and sloshed it all over my laptop. So the next day I sent an email to tech support, a guy named Michael Holmes, who called him homie. The email simply said, "Dear homie, my laptop smells like beer, the tab key doesn't work. Please fix this." And yes, I ended up getting a new laptop, so that's why that laptop will stay over there. So anyway, my name is Billy Hoffman. I've been to a couple of these. I don't know, you know, you might have seen me before. I used to do cool security research, and by cool I mean gay things like cross-site scripting. As my friends that binary reverse patches or exploits for patches and things like that. And I'm like, I just play with Chrome and type tickor 1 = 1 in web forms. That's all I do. So I guess the interest is all relative. So anyway, actually 2 years ago, because it was at this conference that I announced it, I left HP and I started a company called Zumpf. Basically, we build software to help websites go faster. But I'm not here to talk to you about that. If you'd like to, you can go to Zumpf.com. We do some pretty cool stuff. If you have a web interface, we can pretty much double its speed really easily. But what I'm here to talk about really is advice on starting a startup, because I have fucked up so many things in the last 2 years. And really what I want to accomplish with this talk is kind of tell you things that I've learned, things that have been helpful to me, things that I thought would work one way and I absolutely screwed them up and burned and wasted other people's money and time. So, you know, which is a very humbling experience, and kind of just pass that on to you. So I know I'm the warm-up act for Tom Cross, so I hope I don't keep him waiting too long, but I think I've never actually given a talk that's ended on time, so this will probably take about an hour, 10 minutes or so. Anyway, okay, so the first thing I want to say is, yeah, I know there's a lot of craziness going on, but I like Mary J. Blige, and she has a song. Well, it's called Family Affair, but it's all about no more drama. There's so much drama in people's lives. Like, stop drama. Drama sucks. Don't worry about who's doing what at what conference. Just focus on putting together a damn awesome conference. And the fact that you guys had a fusion reactor at this conference gives you a pretty good idea of who's where in the coolness factor. So, you know, don't have drama. Just put on good conferences.
Save the drama for your mama.
That's right, yes. All right, so here's the thing. You as a hacker or a technical person in any way, you basically have an enormous deck stacked against you to start a startup. Because hackers are exactly the type of person that normally can't do this well. Because everything that makes you an awesome hacker makes you suck at starting a company. So hackers want to work on the technical aspects of things. I worked as a security researcher at a small company. When we got bought by HP, they made me a manager. But I still wanted to write, you know, like JavaScript static analysis and things like that. And it made me a really bad manager, because that transition was, I had to go from thinking very deep on a topic and thinking very tactically about something short term to thinking very broad across many things and thinking strategically. And I don't like doing that. I like nothing more than taking 3 days, drinking a shitload of Red Bull, and writing something awesome. You don't get to do that anymore. So, and that's difficult because you want to. Also, hackers, you know, especially if you go into, you know, like Stephen Levy's definition of hackers, you want something to be elegant. And even when it's awesome and working, you want to make it better. You want to do it with less of a memory footprint. That works faster. That works better. You want a complete solution, right? There's not that anything with Perl is ever nice, clean, and elegant and complete. Hey, I like Perl too, but come on, it's a big giant monkey wrench, and we all know it. Hackers want to have something that's complete, that's holistic. Like, how many times have you been working on a project, but you don't want to show it to anybody because it's not done yet, right? And it's never done. Look at Google. Google always has stuff in beta. You know, they're at least able to push it out into the real world, but hackers want things to be awesome. They tinker and they focus. And again, we talked about this, focusing on depth instead of breadth. And also, this idea is, oh, I like this technology. So Tom's going to give this awesome talk about wireless, open wireless, and securing things. And Tom and I have had lots of talks where we're like, this is technically really cool, but how do we make it into a business? And I thought Tom was kind of full of shit until I talked with him a lot, and I realized, wait a minute, there is a business around this. But the thing you need to understand is that the technology you're creating, or even the product you're creating, is not a business. It's in fact, and we're building and developing that technology and making it awesome. That's less than 10% of what you're going to be doing when you're trying to build a business, even if your business is selling that technical widget that you're building. This idea that if I build it, they will come, no, they won't. You will build it, no one will come, and your house will be repossessed while you're waiting for someone to buy your widget. I mean, seriously, it's you want to buy. Yes. Yeah. So you need to understand these things. The deck is already stacked against you. So kind of the first axiom here is your time is the most valuable thing that you have. There is nothing more important when you start a company than how you schedule and manage your time. You can't take 2 days and deep dive and fix something because you had to get something to a customer. And you said, oh, I'll get it to them later. I'll get it to them later. Well, they only had an attention span of 3 days, and they haven't heard from you, and so they went with another vendor. And your ability to close that business is now gone. So because you did not schedule your time efficiently, you just lost money. So this is a reoccurring theme we're going to talk a lot about. To kind of dive into it, you have a cost. Now, you might say, okay, if I make 50 grand a year, that's $25 an hour because you have 52 weeks a year, 2 weeks from vacation, 40-hour work week. You will not be working a 40-hour work week, by the way, but just to play devil's advocate here. There's 2,000 working hours a year. So if you're on salary and you make 50 grand, that's $25 an hour. If you make 100 grand, that's $50 an hour. Now, if you're a consultant and you're like, oh, I want to make $100,000 a year, so I'll just bill out at $50 an hour. Well, consultants, you're not working $2,000 or 2,000 hours a year. If you have a business, even if your business is being a consultant, you're going to spend 50% of your time closing business, writing invoices, making slides and presentation materials and all sorts of crap for you to do your business. So really, if you're a consultant, you're probably going to charge between $100 to $300 an hour. So think about it this way. Anytime you spend time on something, think about the equivalent in spending money. So if I spend 1 hour a month doing, say, email marketing, and I normally get paid 50 grand a year, that's $600. So a great example is email. So, not that I enjoy administering Linux machines, but, I've definitely set up, my share of mail servers, definitely configured spam assassin a lot more often than I'd like. But if you're spending more than an hour a month, that's $600 a year. For an order of magnitude less money, you can go pay Google and get Google Apps for your domain, get a customized version of Gmail. For each user at your company, spend $60 a head. It's cheaper. I don't care whether you like, orgasm configuring spam assassin. If it's taking you more, then economically it does not make sense for you to spend your time that way. And so these are the kind of examples I'm talking about. You need to decide, how am I going to spend my time? How much money is that actually costing? And you need to identify, is it cheaper to pay somebody else to do something? The answer is almost always yes. It is cheaper for you to spend somebody else or spend money on somebody to do it for you. I got a lot of drink here, so. All right, time management is key. So startups are all about breadth. You normally have, when I was a researcher, I had a very few number of very large tasks. When you're running a startup, you normally have hundreds of extremely small, but usually extremely time-critical tasks. So, great example, we've got a couple clients in Europe. Okay, Europe, guy in Germany, he's 5 hours ahead of me. All right, I need to write up this quote, and I need to send it to him today because it's Thursday. That way it's there when he gets into to his work tomorrow on Friday. So he can get it over to procurement, so procurement can process it, so that maybe they can cut me a check on Tuesday, which will clear the bank by Thursday, and I can pay my mortgage payment on Friday without a check bouncing. Well, actually, you're never going to put it into your own account. We're going to talk about finances in a minute. But it's a great example of very small. I just got to send an email and forward over this invoice that is a template that I already wrote, or I'm using QuickBooks. It's extremely time critical, and if you don't do it or you neglect to do this, it's going to do a chain of events and it's going to totally screw you. Now, here's the thing, is that you almost always must make progress on all of these things. And you also need to prioritize. So you're going to have 100 things you need to do. You're going to have time for 10 of them. So you need to prioritize. Of all the things I've got to do today, which of these are going to either generate me money, result in more leads, result in more sales, or somehow get me money? Because anything else you're doing doesn't matter. You could spend, this was a big problem when I started my company, is I said, no, I need to not spend so much time trying to get customers. I have these 3 customers, and they all want XYZ feature. Well, each of those customers is giving me $100 a month. I don't give a damn what those guys want, because I'm talking to these big companies that are going to give me a lot more money a month, and I need to go out and be trying to pull them in as customers than wasting my time writing features that's going to keep an extremely small company a customer that's not generating me a lot of money. So you really need to start ruthlessly prioritizing how you spend money. What I normally do is I started doing the egg timer method, where literally I'd say, here are the tasks I need to get done today. I would use an egg timer, and I would spend 30 minutes on each task. So, hey, my bank statement came in. I need to spend 30 minutes today reconciling, the checks I wrote, the income that came in, sticking this stuff in QuickBooks. It's probably going to take me an hour to do everything, but I'm just going to spend 30 minutes. Because, as you guys know, hackers, something that's only supposed to take 30 minutes, ends up very quickly taking 2 or 3 hours. You go down to rat's nest, and then you look up and say, shit, I didn't even get that email out to the guy in Europe, and now I'm not going to get paid. So setting an egg timer and saying, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes working on X. And then, even if I'm not done, timer goes off, spend a minute or 2 to reach a stopping point, move to the next task. Because you absolutely have to make progress on everything. You cannot afford to be a depth-first process. You have to be breadth first. So, outsource, delegate, accept less than perfect. These are going to be your mantras. You can, so great example, outsourcing. I could maintain my own server, or I could pay WordPress.com like $10 a month, and then I don't have to worry about making sure that WordPress gets updated. I don't have to worry about making sure that my hosting provider scales so that if I get slashed on it, I'm okay. I don't have to worry about htaccess files. I don't have to worry about patching Apache. I don't have to worry about shit. And again, spending somebody $10 a month instead of me doing this when my time is valued at, $50 an hour? Sure, no brainer. You do it. Even if you love doing WordPress configuration, and God help you if you do. Delegating, outsourcing. You do not have time. Is your business configuring WordPress sites? Unless the answer is yes, pay somebody else to do it, because you do not have time. So axiom number 2. So you got to be ruthless about your time, but this is really important. You need to separate yourself from your business. You need to incorporate. So incorporation is all about basically protecting yourself, and incorporation is separating the physical entity, the legal entity that is Billy Hoffman, from the legal entity that is Zoom. So why do you do this? Basically, every legal thing that you as a person can do, corporations can do, including apparently now donating money to campaigns. There are lots of different types of corporations, but the reason you do this is that if I get brought in, let's do a perfect example, because this is actually kind of a sad story. I had some friends who started a security consulting business. They were doing a pen test against a bank. They had just got out of college. They had, some free tools, some, Nessus open source license, or some Nessus home licenses, things like that. Metasploit. And so they did a pen test against the bank. And they knocked down a production bank server and had it down for basically like a day, because they'd used Metinterpreter to throw a rat Trojan on it so they could, remote access it and do all sorts of fun stuff. And it freaked the corporation out. The bank turned this off. Bank turned around and sued them for $2 million. Now, of course, they weren't bad. They had actually done what the contract said. Doesn't matter. Bank says, you fucked up. We're suing you for $2 million. They didn't have a corporation. So that's not the bank is suing Zoomp Incorporated. That would be the bank is suing Billy Hoffman, which means the bank can take my 401k, my house, my car, my assets, my wife's assets, and garnish my wages for the next 20 years until I pay this back or I go bankrupt. Do you see why you need to incorporate? Incorporation is protection, so that even if you are grossly negligent as a corporation, you separate your personal assets from what could be basically pulled from you in case of legal action. Also, by having a corporation, this helps you go ahead and do financing. This helps you go ahead and do accepting venture capital. Even if you're doing like an angel round of investment, you need this. There are lots of different types. I don't really want to get into this. They basically, if you're starting a company, Go buy an hour of an accountant's time. It'll cost you $50. Go find an accountant, sit down with them and be like, this is my business, this is what I'd like to do. You should be able to answer questions like, here's what my product is. Is it a software good, a physical good, is it services? How large do you think a normal sale will be? I mean, are you selling, a $300 theme for WordPress, or are you selling, $1,000, security audit pen test service? What's your average sale going to be? They'll sit down and tell you which corporation makes sense. Each has to handle taxes differently, how often you file. If you're a C Corp or an S Corp, it is a lot easier to then take venture capital, because those legal entities are designed to have shares that are then distributed to other people and thus given in exchange for funding. So if you're ever interested in accepting funding, you should probably look at one of those. Zumpf is a C Corp. So if you're in Georgia, it's the Secretary of State. It took me 15 minutes, $100. So really easy to do it. The key about incorporation is it gets you an EIN. An EIN is then employment.
Employer identification number.
Thank you. Yes, it is a social security. It's the equivalent of a social security number for a corporation. Now you need this, and once you've incorporated and you have your paperwork, you can then go to the IRS Gov's website and get one of these for free.
Billy, can I throw something in here too?
Yeah.
Everything that Billy is talking about with incorporation, understanding how this stuff works doesn't just apply to like doing a startup company. If you're running, websites that are particularly popular and stuff like that, you want to have that separated from your personal identity.
Absolutely.
An example is this con. The way an LLC or an S Corp or C Corp works isn't materially different from how the nonprofit organizations work, like 501c3 or 501c4. So like if you're trying to throw a conference and you want people to be able to donate money and do it as a tax write-off and all of that, it's the same mechanics. It's just one of those things that as hackers, we should all understand how to hack business.
Absolutely.
In terms of it's really.
And there are protections there too. So somebody gets drunk, falls, slips on all the water because somebody threw suds in the fountain outside, which they haven't yet.
What the video just saw was you standing there saying, yeah, for about 45 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
Shit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you have a question,
I'll
grab that.
I'll do it real brief, just to thank people.
Redo. I will drink while Nick talks.
Yeah, okay, it was stupid for me not to grab the microphone. The point again is just everything that Billy is talking about in terms of incorporation here is something that hackers should understand, because it doesn't just apply to startups. If you're, trying to throw a convention like this and forming as a nonprofit, which is, similar in organization to like, an S Corp or C Corp or whatever, all the protection stuff pretty much works the same way.
And it provides
Understanding how this stuff works is of critical importance in this
Right.
meeting.
And it also provides a legal protection. So like I was saying, you get drunk, you slip outside the fountain, and you crack your head. You're probably going to sue the hotel because they were negligent, didn't clean up a spill or post a little thing. What happens if you did it in this con room? I tripped over a wire and had a light fall on my head. And now my memory is hazy, or I can't focus or concentrate. And that has nothing to do with the amount of alcohol I'm consuming. It has to do with the light in my head, I swear to God, as my personal injury lawyer. Because they will get a lawyer and they will sue you. And this way they are suing PhreakNIC, not Dolomite, or, Wilpid, or Tillman. So anyway, the other reason you want an EIN is because, well, we'll talk about this in a second. You have to separate your finances, and you cannot get a checking account, a business checking account, without an EIN. So the other thing you need to realize is that you are not your company. So, I don't care whether you want to fight for the lesbian rights of poodles, and you feel very passionate about this. Don't post that on the company blog. Don't post that on the company Twitter account. You need to have a separate telephone number, ideally an address too, a mailing address at least. Email. Email for, Zumpf.com is not, BillyMHoffman@gmail.com. Nothing screams I'm a professional no one than having a Gmail address or something that has a personal email address instead of a business. A website. Don't run even PhreakNIC. Like if you've got a day job and you're doing PhreakNIC, don't run them like it shouldn't be, PhreakNIC.com/my company directory, right? That you run it out of. No. Go buy a domain name. It's not hard. Don't use AIM to communicate with customers. That's your personal. Don't use a personal Twitter account. And more importantly, don't use your company for personal rants. So let's say you wanted to yell at someone you felt very strongly about for creating a security conference. Don't do it using your company blog, right? Remember, no more drama. You shouldn't be yelling at people anyway. Focus on making your own thing awesome instead of tearing somebody else down. But at the same time, your company is not you. Your company is not a platform for you to talk about whatever bullshit political opinions you have. I really don't care. And great example. So you might be a crazy socialist, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Half the country isn't. You might be a crazy gun-toting Republican. Guess what? Half the country isn't. So either way you want to make a political post, you just told half your customers to go fuck themselves. Don't publish it on your blog. Don't put personal things about it. You are not your company. Separate them. Finances. So you've got an EIN. Here's the thing. People don't pay you. When I make a sale or something, people don't write Billy Hoffman a check. They write Zulf a check. That check goes into the corporate bank account. The corporation pays me a monthly salary. Now we have other employees. We have contractors that we use that we pay through 1099 every year. But you have a checking account. Now this is where things really get murky, especially for small businesses, when you don't have a lot of cash flow. And you're like, oh, well, I really need to cover my mortgage this month. Why? I don't have time to wait the 4 days to deposit it into this account, then wait for it to clear, and then write myself a check. You will be tempted to do that. What's that line from Pulp Fiction? Like, on the night of the fight, you will feel the need to do this. That's pain, or that's pride fucking with you. Don't do it. Don't mess up your finances. Keep them separate. Nothing that comes into the business should ever touch a personal account of yours. You set up a business checking account, everything comes into that business checking account, and you pay yourself out of that business checking account. Also, go ahead, keep really, really, really detailed records. When you start filing taxes, basically, TurboTax will not let you even submit your business tax form until you essentially submit a balance sheet, which says, here's all the money that came in, here's all the money that came out. And unless everything is in perfect balance, like double entry booking, the program refuses to move forward. So you need to have extremely, extremely, extremely detailed records. Your record should not be, well, let me go look at my bank statement, and it says, some site.com that I've never heard of, and then some tracking number as the entry in my banking statement, right? And you're looking at this 6 months later. Like, how the hell are you going to know what that is? First of all, a lot of times when you buy stuff on the internet, the person who actually processes your payment, that's the name that actually goes in your checking account. And often it is not the company that you bought it from, or it's someone else. So keep really detailed records. You need to understand where your money is going in and out. Now, quotes, invoices, documents, this stuff is a lot easier than you think. So first of all, there are a lot of templates online. So if you want to know what an invoice looks like that you send somebody for a software product, you do what I did about 18 months ago, and you Google it, and you download something, and you replace somebody's logo with your logo, and you tweak it a little bit, and then there's your invoice form. There's a lot of boilerplate. I mean, there are some websites that basically will let you download a zip file that's like, here is a stock non-disclosure agreement. Here is a stock, customer, like a EULA. Here is, this, that. Exactly the documents that you're going to need are going to depend on your business. A lot of times you can get these from a customer. Very early on, we had a customer that said, okay, that's great. We want to talk to you about X, Y, Z. We want to implement this. But to do that, we're going to have to tell you about our internal system architecture. We want you to sign an NDA. Could you send your NDA over to us? And we said, we find a lot of times when we work with the company, it's better for them to supply the NDA because they have more conditions than we do. That's great. So they send us our NDA, and now we have an NDA too. And we might edit it a little bit, but you get the stuff from people. Nick's actually in here. Nick was one of the early customers of Zoom. So Nick, I'm going to talk a lot about you. But Nick, really great. The customer user, we had a customer agreement about, hey, we're going to sell you the software license. Here are the terms and conditions. Nick's like, oh, this looks great. My legal department wants to add a couple things. And they added certain stuff about saying, like, look, either party can terminate this agreement within 30 days by notice this way or written notice this way. And if you're in material breach of the contract, blah, 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 blah. This was all sorts of language I would have never thought of. And I'm like, yeah, all of this is good. This should be in there. And so great, Nick, I got free legalese from Nick's company, which is awesome. And now we use that in our contract. So you're going to get this stuff slowly. Don't freak out. It's all fairly boilerplate.
Technically, you got your legal stuff from
former White House lawyer.
Okay, technically I got it from former White House lawyers. All right, tracking the money. We talk about this. This is critical. This is the like get busted for tax evasion type thing, right? Because if you do not report where money is coming from, or this is where you can really screw things up and go to jail. So you need to not only track your money, but at any point in time as a business owner, you need to answer, how much money do I have? Like right now, how much money do I have? How much have I invested into this company? Like how many months did I go without collecting salary? How much money did I take from angel investors? So when I started Zoom, we took $60,000 in a friends and family round. Basically, we had 3 people who I worked closely with in previous company that said, Billy, we like what you're doing, we think this will work. We'll each kick in 20K. So I'm like, how much am I in the hole? I've taken 60K of somebody's money. Here's how much I've sold. At what rate am I getting revenue? How quickly until I get out of that hole? How much money has sales brought in? So, not only have how much money have I actually made from selling my product versus doing security consulting on the side to pay the bills and keep the lights on? How much money have I burned? And what is my monthly expenses? And this is really key, runway. So you should be able to say, how much money do I have? At what rate is money coming in and what rate going out? Am I negative? You're going to be negative for a while. You're going to be in the red. You're going to burn, say, like Zoom's burn rate, we're pretty much break even now with this deal that's closing. But for a while, it's like, okay, my burn rate is $3,200 a month. Okay, here's how much money I have. I'm burning $3,200 a month. Every time I get a sale, I'm lowering how much money I'm burning. But right now, how many months of business do I have? Do I have 6 months before checks start bouncing? Do I have 3 months before I have checks bouncing? You need to know this because sales, when we talk about sales is not, hi, my name's Billy, I have this cool product. Oh, hi, I'm Tom, I really like this product. I would like to buy it. Awesome, would you write me a check? Sure, here's a check. That is not sales. I naively thought, seriously, without a doubt, that's what I thought sales was when I started this. And I'm like, oh, how long can sales take? Or even when they approve it, how long before I get my check, right? Especially with consulting. If anybody ever does consulting, a lot of times consulting is you do the engagement, submit them an invoice, and they have either net 30 or net 60 to pay you. So it could be 2 months after you've done an engagement before you get a check. So understanding your runway, and then now you guys are seeing, trying to do this to prioritize your time. This is what keeps your business alive. So cash flow. When you're small, this is critical. Cash flow is, so you might on paper say, okay, this month I'm going to take in $3,000 in sales, right? Like I have a check coming for a license and it's $3,000. Or maybe I have 2 checks or 3 checks coming in and each is $1,000. And I have $2,500 in expenses. Awesome. End of the month, I'm up $500. Yeah, but when do you have to pay those $2,500? Like if you have to pay all of that in the first week and you don't get your checks to the end of the week, over the month, you're positive. But in the middle of it, you go negative, which means that a check is going to bounce, which means you can't do that. So that's cash flow. Cash flow is how is money actually coming in, when is it actually coming in, and when are expenses actually going out. And so when you're small, and you don't really have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of money coming in, and you don't really have expenses going out, this is critical. You can totally screw yourself. So you need to monitor this. I did this using a spreadsheet, and I recently started doing this using QuickBooks. But basically, you want to keep a spreadsheet. You want to know, when money on hand. You want to go ahead. I actually keep another spreadsheet where I keep a list of customers we have, when we send them invoices, and when they pay me. So we get an idea that this vendor, we give our customers anywhere from 14 calendar days to 20 business days, so 2 weeks to 4 weeks to pay us. How quickly do these people pay us on average? Like you should be able to understand that. So, it'll help you plan your cash flow a little bit more. Understand when invoices are due. So what I like to do is ask our customers to pay us as quickly as possible. And when I had an expense or we used a vendor, we did this a lot when we had a web designer. The web designer is like, you can pay me 45 days. You have to be paid within 45 days of me giving you this invoice. I waited until the 44th day to pay them because I needed to keep as much of a buffer as possible because of cash flow. So this is kind of a pain in the ass and a dick thing to do to the people you're buying stuff from, but pay them as late as possible because you need to have as much of a buffer. because, let's say you paid out that invoice, you had 45 days to pay the invoice and you paid it on the first day. And then the next day your server blew up. What are you going to do, right? Like, you don't have money now to buy a 1U box. You won't have it for, maybe 2 weeks, but that's your business. And you don't have any cash on hand. This is really a big deal when you're small, but it never really goes away. But just be very cognizant of this. Business insurance, this is critical. This is more protection for you. A lot of times this is required for consulting jobs. My friend, so those 3 guys that did the consulting for the bank, 2 of them declared bankruptcy. 1 of them is still fighting it in law, or in the court of law, just so you know. So, and he's going to lose, or actually he'll probably win, because their contract did say, we are not liable for damages. Doesn't matter, the bank's destroying them. He's having to pay lawyers to make sure that they don't steal his money. So business insurance kind of covers the something really bad happened, this basically pays to cover your mistakes. So I did some security work for a really big personal computer manufacturer that's in Texas. And they required that I carried $4 million worth of errors and omissions insurance, which is ludicrous because, I mean, that's many times more than what Zoom makes annually. And so we were able to talk to them and reduce that. And so I only had to carry $1 million of errors and omissions insurance. It's not that expensive. It ended up being about $5 grand for the year for me to carry that much insurance. But the consulting deal I was doing was only like a 25 grand deal. So, you look at that and say, wow, 20% of the money I'm going to get from this job I needed just to buy the insurance to be able to do this job. So you can get this from most general insurance vendors, Prudential, my brain's failing me right now, but basically anybody who sells insurance sells general insurance. There's somebody called an insurance broker. This is someone that doesn't work for an insurance company. They're kind of like a middleman, kind of like a realtor. When you want to go buy a house, you can't, you can, but it's very difficult. You go to a realtor and the realtor helps find you houses, and then maybe even as like a mortgage broker finds you the best company that's going to get you the best rate. There are insurance brokers. I highly recommend them. You usually don't have to pay the insurance broker. The person that, it's kind of like when you're buying a house, the person who's selling the house pays some percentage to your realtor who found the house for you. Same thing with insurance agents, or insurance brokers. Use an insurance broker. Tell them what your business is, what type of business you're in, like what products do you make or services, and they'll give you an idea of the type of insurance you should carry. Business infrastructure. So, you got to be really careful about time. You got to separate yourself legally from what your company is doing and be very careful about money. But also, you need infrastructure to run a business. And a lot of this is way cheaper than you think it is. Like, it has never been, I hope I'm not scaring you, right? Starting a startup is fantastic. It's never been cheaper to start a startup, right? Like, there's almost no reason not to do it if you have something that you think is viable. But at the same time, you need to be careful. But in terms of infrastructure, this stuff is, like, you don't need to go drop, like when Tom started Meme Streams with Nick, they had to go buy a server, or they had a server, maybe from MyAsiaWorks. I have no idea. But they had to go buy a system. Okay, so you just sunk your capital costs up front is you just dropped $2 grand on a server. Well, why? I can go to Rackspace.com and get a really cheap instance, keep it running, a virtual server, keep it running 24/7, and it costs me $80 a month. So, and even if I keep that thing running 3 years, I will have paid more than I would have if I just bought a server. But you know what? I didn't have a giant $2 grand capital spike at the front, which means you basically can start a company without actually needing to take funding, because you basically are able to lower the huge spikes that you need in an initial capital. So PCs are cheap, right? Like, there's business grade, and I mean, you can buy a laptop for less than $700. It's a piece of shit, and it'll fall apart in 2 or 3 years, but who cares? Like right now, like this thing, if I spill this on that, I don't care, because I spent $700 at Best Buy on that.
It's gonna happen.
It could happen. $700 is nothing. You can get desktops for, $200-300. So pretty much, I love IBM. I love ThinkPads, even though it's Lenovo now. Awesome laptops. Wouldn't buy them unless, HP or SPY or whatever corporate overlord I was at bought them for me. You don't need to, because if you lose a ThinkPad, you're out $2 grand. If I lose that, I'm out $700. My work efficiency between working on this and working on ThinkPad, it's not double. I'm not twice as efficient using a ThinkPad. Especially as a startup person, you're going to be at home working on this, and it's probably going to be connected to an external monitor and an external keyboard. So, and seriously, you buy a crappy $700 machine, and then you put a solid state drive in it, and it works a lot better than that $2,000 ThinkPad. So, cloud servers. Cloud servers are cheap. Avoid that initial capital spike. Right now, Zumpf is running on some cloud, Rackspace cloud infrastructure. We pay, last check, it was like $120 a month for our multiple systems that we have running. It's like nothing. I would never, never, never buy a physical box. Because what happens if that physical box's motherboard dies? Crap, I don't want to have to drive to the data center and pull it out and go buy something and be down. Screw it. And here's the other thing, is that if suddenly Zumpf starts getting more traffic tomorrow, screw it. I'll start a new instance in our Rackspace cloud. And I'm not even talking about you build an app that can run on X number of machines, right? It runs on one box, and then you bring another one up, and it just seamlessly now uses the capability of two machines. I mean, no, you literally turn off that box, and then you buy one that has twice the amount of RAM and another processor core. And it's like, you know, and the best thing is it's not even twice as expensive, even though it's twice the capacity. The scale is actually less. So you're going to pay, you know, maybe 1.8 times what you were paying before, but you have twice the capacity now. Like, you would be stupid to start a company and buy a hardware. Automated backups. Test your backups. I cannot tell. So what was it? BlackBerry, right? They went down. The BlackBerry messaging service went down. Did you guys hear about this last month? And if you read about it, they're like, oh, we're sorry. They had a backup. It was a problem with backup. They tried to do a restore from a database and had something fail, which took down a server, which took down something else. I mean, it was like basic, you know, System Administrator 101, test your backup system, and they didn't do it. And it took BlackBerry Messenger down for 2 days. So, you know, I mean, and that's a giant company. Like, what the hell is wrong with them? So, you know, test your automated backup solution. We use this great thing called Jungle Disk. It runs on top of like Amazon. It's like $1 a month plus like 10 cents a gig. And we're paying them like, I don't know, it's like $9 or $10 a month to store all of our data from all of our users and us. So, and we tested doing backups and restores on all of our systems. So, like, backups don't need to cost you a lot of money. And it's off-site. Excuse me. It's off-site. So, you know, this stuff is cheap. Don't do it yourself. Pay somebody else to worry about it for you. Email, great example. You know, I just do Google Apps for your domain. It's $60 per user. I don't worry about spam. I don't worry about searching and indexing. I don't worry about backups. I don't worry about, hey, I just got an iPhone. Can I still access my email? Well, yes, you can. It's Gmail. I don't, you know, I got SSL. It's updates. It's managed. Screw it. You would be stupid to run your own email server. That's kind of my reoccurring theme in this, is you would be stupid to do X. Seriously, this is so cheap. You would be stupid to do anything else. And it's branded to my domain, right? You email billy@zumpf.com. I get it. I get 25 gigs of space in the cloud somewhere. Now, customer support kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's Gmail. It's not like it really fails me all that often. And oh, by the way, I not only get Gmail, I get Calendar and Docs and all this other stuff. It's got offline access in Chrome, so I mean, if I'm in a plane, which isn't very often, but I still have access to my email. So, you know, screw Exchange, screw Outlook. Pay $60 a head and you're done. Phone, right? So we call Europe a lot. Skype is a godsend. You know, we'll talk to Germany for, you know, 30 minutes, and it'll be like $2 on Skype, and they never notice the voice quality. One way you can do it is just buy a separate cell. I know somebody who just bought a prepaid cell, and they use that as their business line. That way, if the phone ever rings, they know it's a business call. I actually use Google Voice. I got a Google Voice telephone number, and then it just forwards to my phone. And then my phone says Zumpf business line. And the other cool thing about that is I can program it to be like, you know, from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening, put it through to me, otherwise send it to voicemail. And then we found a chick on Craigslist with a British accent, like, thank you for calling Zumpf. If you'd like to talk to blah, 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 which makes it sound awesome, not like some little podunk hit company in Georgia, because we've got a British chick who did our message, right? So Craigslist, right? Outsource that out. Like, I could probably spend an hour or two trying to fake a sexy British chick's accent, but it's never going to be as good as the real thing. And besides, I cost $50 an hour. That chick does it. That sounded dirty. I didn't mean it like that. Or maybe she does, I don't know. It's Craigslist, right? Conference calls. You would be stupid to buy for a conference bridge, right? Freeconference.com. You get it's a long distance access number, but really long distance telephone rates aren't that bad because everybody has cell phones. You know, like I think nothing about calling somebody. I'm like, oh, that's not 404 or 770 or 678. You know, it's not in the Southeast. I don't care. I just call the number. And so giving people like, hey, here's the access code to dial into us doesn't matter. So that's free. You can get a 1-800 number, like a package that like gives you a 1-800 number and will like record it and give you a transcript. And it ends up being like 10 cents a minute. I've never used that. Yeah, you're gonna need the microphone.
Right.
Yeah.
Rattle talking stick.
Yeah.
Turn it on.
Robin.
Am I good? Okay. Yeah, how does free conference compare to things like WebEx?
So Free Conference only provides audio services. WebEx provides audio services and screen sharing. But for screen sharing, actually there's this awesome website called join.me that it gives you like a little download. It works on Linux, Mac, Windows, and you just send whoever to join the meeting a URL and it uses Flash. So none of this downloading an ActiveX control or downloading some stupidly bad JavaScript jar or some jar file, right? It's like the easiest way to do like a WebEx demo, and it's free. And it's not like it's watermarked all over the place with ads or anything like that. So we use Free Conference, and then we use Join Me to do conferences. We used to do, what was it? It's GoToMeeting. They just bought it. Or yeah, I guess it is GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting got bought by Citrix.
Yes.
And we used to use GoToMeeting, which gave you a conference bridge and gave you like unlimited meetings, but their lowest package was $30 a month. And we rarely needed to have conference calls. We would just use, well, you can do conference calls with Skype if you really, need to, but it's a free conference bridge. Fax machines are rarely needed. I'll have some people be like, can you fax me this document? And I can be like, I can print it out, scan it, or sign it, scan it, and email it. And they're like, that's fine. In 2 years, I have never had to use a fax machine. So don't worry about fax machines. So video conferencing, we talked about this. This is kind of cool. There's a website called TinyChat that it's basically you can create a chat like tinychat.com/Billy'sAwesomeMeeting. And you can mark that as private if you want. But basically, somebody goes to that URL, it uses Flash, and you can have a chat room with webcams if you want. GoToMeeting is reasonable, like I said, the $30 a month, but I find join.me a lot better. Website. All right, you would be stupid to do this yourself, right? Like basic hosting, $10 a month. You should not be worrying about Apache. You should not be worrying about WordPress. Well, first of all, don't write your own CMS. As someone who used to break into websites for a living, don't write your own CMS. Like if you were using PHP, I think I used to show this actually in some of my talks. There's this great little screenshot, and it shows Clippy, from Microsoft Word popped up in the corner, and it shows, like TextMate open, and someone's writing a CMS in PHP, and it says at the bottom, it looks like you're writing a CMS. Would you like me to automatically insert SQL injection vulnerabilities? Don't write your own CMS. Like, use WordPress. You would be stupid not to use something that already exists. I don't care what your use case is. Like, no, I can't use WordPress because of blank. No, you're stupid. Yes, you can. There's a plugin that whatever X is, that has already been solved. So use an ecosystem. Just use WordPress. There's themes, there are plugins, it's constantly being updated. Even better, use a hosted instance of WordPress. I suggest WordPress.com because it scales. Those are the guys that are creating WordPress.
WP Engine. Check out WP Engine.
WP Engine? Okay, there are a couple other ones that do it. There's some that have more of a security focus, but this is not going to cost you a lot of money. You would be stupid to do this yourself. So messaging. All right, so now we're kind of getting into a little bit more businessy stuff. So the messaging, it's all about expressing what you do in a succinct, easy to understand way. So obviously I am long-winded. And obviously I'm not very good at expressing things succinctly, unless it is you would be stupid to do blank, right? Like that's the only thing I can succinctly say. So messaging is all about what is the value proposition of whatever your product is or service. Like why should somebody give you money? You should be able to express that very cleanly, very distinctly. Why are you better than X alternative? You should understand who is buying my product. Am I selling to somebody in the IT operations role? Am I selling to a QA department? Am I selling to a developer? Like, who buys this? More importantly, if I'm selling to, like, let's say I'm selling a security product. I make another thing like Nessus. The people who use my product are IT security pen testers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, IT security pen testers may have a lot of black stickers on their laptop, but I'll tell you one thing they don't have: money or fiduciary power. They have to go to their manager to get somebody to buy them. So you should not, on your website, talk about how elite and awesome your commercialized version of Metasploit is, because the security manager doesn't give a damn about that. He wants to know, why should I buy you instead of other security products? Will you make my pen tester faster? Are the reports going to be easier for me and other people inside my organization to digest? Is the ROI cheaper, total cost of ownership over an entire year? Understand what your value principle is, and the people that you need to communicate with inside an organization that ultimately you're going to buy that product. What are the things that appeal to them, and then do that. We hired somebody to help us with this. Basically, if you go to a web design firm that's going to design the look and feel of your site, they often offer, they might call this copywriting services or content providers or messaging. Basically, these people are going to sit down, they're going to interview you for 3 or 4 hours about what do you do and why is what you do awesome. And then they're basically going to distill that down. And I think the Zoom website right now does a pretty good job of explaining what we do, how we're different, and why you should give us money. So another thing they'll do is they'll help you generate marketing collaterals. So anyway, this was an early Zoom logo. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with this logo?
A fast turtle.
Well, yes, it's a fast turtle, and that's kind of silly. And believe me, in the performance space, you get really tired of looking at fast turtles because every freaking performance company has a fast turtle on their website. The worst part is, if you type performance into iStock photo, one of the first things that comes up is a picture of a turtle with a rocket on it. And I know of 3 different performance companies that all use that damn same graphic on their main page. I'm like, wow, come on, have a little originality than going to iStock photo and picking the first thing that comes up. So yes, it's a turtle going fast, and that's kind of stupid. What else?
It looks like you provide services to zoos.
Yes, that is true. I'll tell you what's wrong with this. That's an extremely complicated logo. He's got goggles. He's got a little smile. These flames are really complex. Do you know how good that looks when you print it on a pen? You can't see crap. This is a blob. Can't even figure out what it is. It's two-tone, right? This is a color, this is a color, and this is a color. So at the very least, to print this and accurately represent my logo, I need to do 4-color printing. Also, this logo looks really bad in black on white or white on black. So the thing about logos is, don't make them too complex. Think about size. How will this look when it's huge? How will this look when it's small? Could you print this on a pen or some other piece of crap that you give away at marketing booths? Colors. Does it look good black on white, white on black? 4 colors. This is actually the Zoom logo we have now. It's memorable. It's got kind of a speedy looking thing. We use 2 colors. It pretty much looks good in all those scenarios. So this is an example of what I think a good logo is. So outsourcing. I can't use the GIMP to save my life, right? And God help me if I get loose in Illustrator, because I'm like, how do I resize this? Where's the canvas size? And then the left part of my brain is saying, Billy, you're an idiot. It's a vector. It doesn't have a canvas size. So when you get logos made, you need them to be vector graphics. They do not need to be bitmaps. They need to be able to be expanded, resized anyway. Now the great thing is you should get artists to basically give you mock-ups of your logo, and then you decide which one you'd like. There are 2 great websites. We use CrowdSpring. Our logo cost us $400. Basically what you do is you go on there and you say, they have like a questionnaire. It's like, I am this type of company. Here are the things that I want a design that's clean, that looks modern. If you were Vanderbilt University, you might want a logo that has a certain typeface, and you probably want a text that has serifs on it, right? The little, things on the I's and the J's because it looks more distinguished. Basically, they ask you a bunch of questions about things that you want. And you say, I am willing to pay, I want a design and I'm willing to pay, $400. And the site takes a cut. So it ends up being like, I will pay you $360 to the winner. And people just start making designs and posting them. We had something like 260 or 70 different logos that people mocked up and posted. And you leave it open for like 2 weeks and you can review saying, ooh, I like this, but instead of having it be, slanted this way, can you put those little lines on the other side? Or I like this, but can I see it in greens instead of blue? So you give them feedback, and then other artists see your feedback. And over the course of a week, you kind of asymptotically approach awesome. And you get a really good logo, and it costs you nothing. So outsource this.
Hey, Billy, can I interject one comment there?
Yeah.
Just from experience, I've hired many different graphics artists over time, and I have this problem. It was happening over and over and over again.
Yes.
So if I'm a great graphics artist, we have a great concept, they're going to do it, and then they get bored or distracted or whatever, and they never get it done.
Absolutely. You have the same problem with web designers too. It's like my name's Andre and I have a Mac and I design websites and I will never email you back.
So I have this theory that when you go to one of these crowdsourcing sites and you get like 25 samples, that's the equivalent of hiring 100 graphics artists. You get 25 samples and then 75 people that flaked out before they got the sample.
Absolutely.
And so.
And the best part is that so you get to see you don't see uber high resolution logos, but these websites on the back end, these guys are uploading Adobe Illustrator files, and then they are generating these small thumbnails for you to pick. So any design you see that's on there and you're like, yes, I like this, that artist has already done all of the work necessary for you to be able to productize that logo. So you get to avoid the problem Tom's talking about with you're like, oh, I love that. Like there was one logo we loved where it was like a fat little sumo guy running. We're like, this is awesome. And we almost did it. But it would have been a shame to buy that and then that guy not be able to do the logo. He already did the logo. That's why I'm seeing it. So business cards are worth their weight in gold. You should carry them anywhere. I have in my wallet in the back.
I have to interject, just an interesting thing.
Yeah.
The Mainstreams logo has been redesigned 2 times because we had artists flake out and provide us with a logo and we didn't get the vector graphics.
Yes, you only got bitmaps instead of vectors.
Sometimes you'll have a logo and it'll be a key part of your brand or something, and you will wind up having to have it redesigned because you had your artist people screw up. So
Yes.
that's one little basic thing of make sure you get the vector graphics. Could save you
Absolutely.
More money later.
And you want them in both Adobe Illustrator and EPS. So business cards are worth their weight in gold. Nothing says amateur like a business card printed on an inkjet paper that you bought from Avery and came with a Word template that you downloaded from their web. And seriously, don't. I cannot tell you the number of people who have given me that. They're like, oh, I'm the CEO of this company and we make X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, no, you live in your mom's basement. You printed out a business card and handed it to her. Seriously, nothing says, I know I'm sounding a little arrogant here, but I'm kind of an asshole sometimes. So anyway, seriously, nothing says amateur like do-it-yourself business cards. Don't do business cards yourselves. You can go to moo.com, awesome website, $20, get, basically, I think you can get a box of about 100 business cards printed on high-quality stock. It's 4-color printing. 4-color printing does not mean the business card can only have 4 colors. It means they do the CMKY. They're actually using 4 different colors of inks, which means they can do thousands of colors. Oh, that's the other thing. When you get your logo done or anything, they should give you a proof sheet that says, here are the colors that I use, here are their RGB values, and here's also their CMKY values. Yeah. So because that is what, if you go to someone to get polo shirts printed up with your logo, like I did, you need to give that to the printer, and the printers operate on CMKY, not RGB. So you need to make sure you get that. Anyway, moo.com, really cheap, high card stock. They're awesome. Carry them with you everywhere. I've got a little part. So I've got, I've got kind of a lame wallet. It's like a money clip plus stuff. But right here, this is where, well, that's a check. That hopefully isn't signed. Yeah, that's a blank signed check. I'm going to just put that back in there. Nobody do that. Yeah, so we actually use these little half-pint cards.
Have a few more drinks, all right?
Yeah, I'm going to have a few more drinks and then walk down that dark alley. Yeah, go to moo.com. It's awesome. That guy back, whoa, we got a couple of questions. Nick, can you pass that up?
Just a comment.
Switch.
Switch.
On the side. Stroke it. Stroke it. Stroke it higher.
Hey, Tom, I'm at an hour and I've got 15 minutes to go.
Just one little suggestion.
a lot of people go for the Vistaprint, and then they have the little, this business card is printed free on Vistaprint. Don't do that.
Don't. The only thing worse than that is having, like the printed on, paper from your
If you're looking
desktop.
in the nonprofit space and stuff like that, you might want to go to a union printer. Believe it or not, it's a big deal with some people if you don't have the little union bug on your business cards. They like get all upset about it. So if you ever deal with labor groups and stuff like that, go to a union printer.
I build software that makes websites go faster. I never talk to union people. I talk to a lot of idiots, but not union people.
One thing that occurred to me, when we talked about, your logo looks different scales, if you, given how many people are using either smartphones or tablets these days, make sure your logo also looks good if you reduce it down to an icon on the desktop. Because I've seen a lot of corporate logos that you reduce them down to that size, and you just have an unidentifiable blob.
So that depends on what you do, right? Is your company, are you Salesforce.com where your company is your product? Or are you, so a great example is Google. So Google has their logo, but if you install an app on your iPhone, it's probably just a G. Or it's like they have an icon or a logo for the product name as opposed to a logo for the product company. So I would say just beware of what you're actually wanting. Like Zoom, we have nothing that goes on an iPhone. We don't have, we have a website, and so we have a version of our fave icon that's linked through a meta tag to be like 150 pixels by 160 pixels. And it looks pretty, but it's not our Zoom logo. It's just this cool stylized Z as something else. So certainly think about different scenarios that you might use your logo in, but just also keep in mind the context. Like, do I want this to be my company or would this be my product? Great example is, so Alanka, I just downloaded her Tiny Heroes. I don't know if she's in here. It's awesome. I started playing with it while I was trying to eat pig, which made my iPhone messy and nasty. But anyway, awesome company. Her company is not called Tiny Heroes, but her icon is Tiny Heroes. So just try to think about what you want to present to your customer. But definitely a good point. So treat your companies or customers right. Or, I'm sorry, Nick. So Nick was an early customer of Zoom's. And I really treated him like crap because I didn't know any better. And also time critical tasks. So Nick, we started with kind of a services consulting engagement, and then our company was basically doing services work to build in-house some software that would make websites go faster. And we used it to power our services, and then we transitioned to actually selling this. And so we were moving Nick to basically from having a services license to having a product license. And there was some things I was supposed to do with modifying the terms of the license that I never did. I was supposed to send them to Nick, and Nick is like, Billy, I got this meeting with the guy who's got to approve this. I need you to send this to me. And I'm like, I think it'd be really cool to have some feature in our product where you could send an email and it would start doing a scan, and like an API over SMTP. That sounds awesome. That's a good use of my time. And because I'm a hacker, I thought it was a good use of my time. And so I didn't help Nick. I didn't do what I was supposed to, and that made Nick very upset with me. And he's like, damn it, you made me look like an idiot because I told these people this was coming, and then it wasn't. So again, that comes back to prioritization. Did I really need to spend 2 days writing an SMTP interface to access our API, which 0 customers have used in the last 12 months that I wrote that? No, I didn't. So treat your customers right. Which also takes me to, only your customers can tell you what they want. So, I built a feature, a API or an access to our API over SMTP that nobody needs. I thought they might need it. I thought it would be really cool to be like, oh, I'm on the road and I want to have my website scanned. Let me just send an email to, the Zoom email address that's for our account and just put in the subject, like the URL I want it to scan. Like, I thought that was valuable. I thought that would be useful. Yeah, it turns out not so much, because I had this problem at HP. So we were a small security company. We built a tool called Web Inspect that basically would scan your website. Think of it like Nessus, but layer 7 and not sucky. And so, not that Nessus sucks, but the reports really do. So we built this, and then when we got to HP, we had all these arguments about what we needed to put in the product. And somebody would be like, well, I think this, this, this. And somebody would be like, I think this. And I managed the research team. And so our job was basically trying to see what were the new threats and how to automatically audit for those security vulnerabilities and stick that into the product. And I'd say, well, I think this, and this. But frankly, it doesn't matter what you think or what I think. Well, actually, what you think matters X, what you think matters X, what I think matters 2X, because I'm awesome. But fuck you, and fuck me, because the customer matters 100X. Because only your customers tells you what you want. We can sit here and argue all day long about features we think they should have, but unless we actually went out and talked to them, screw it, who cares? We're just, walking around in a big cave with a flashlight. We can't see the whole picture. Now, this isn't always true, right? Like there's Henry Ford had this quote. He said, if I listened to what the customer wanted, I would have made more buggy whips, right? Like at the time, people didn't want, horse buggies. They needed a car. They just didn't know it. Jobs is famous for this, right? Like who the hell knew they needed an iPad until you started using an iPad? And then you're like, oh my God, how did I not have this? There was also great pictures of here's what smartphones looked like before the iPhone, and here's what they all look like after it, right? Like you didn't know, you always thought you needed a physical keyboard. Yeah, it turned out you didn't. But that is the extreme exception, not the rule. So you should keep a spreadsheet. You should keep a spreadsheet of all of your customers and what they say about your product. So this is also where I kind of screwed Nick, because Nick talked to me and his people were like, we need to have this export into Excel. And I'm like, well, I can have it export into, CSV. Maybe I'll do an Excel export soon. And I never did. Again, not treating Nick well, because Nick was a big customer and Nick paid me a lot of money. So what I do now, because I don't suck, I suck less, is I have an Excel spreadsheet. And I have a list of all my customers. And I say, what has this customer asked of me? What is it that they want? And everybody has multiple things they want. And you look and say, okay, I've got 5 customers, so I talked about this earlier. I had 5 customers who all want feature X, but you know what? Those people pay me $100 a month. This company over here, they pay me $1,000 a month. I don't care what they want. I'm a whore. I will service them before I service these people down here. That's the other thing is you are now going to be a whore as a owner of a startup because your job is basically to sexually service your customers or really give them anything that they want. Sometimes sexual services, but not as often as you'd think. Though. Anyway, it's not scandalous if you don't look them in the eyes.
Do you have any porn site customers?
We do have some people in the adult entertainment because they want their website to be faster. And frankly, I think my mark on humanity can be helping porn be streamed more efficiently to people. Yes?
So I want to make a quick comment. So you were talking about the iPhone phenomenon, and I think it's important, so this is about product management, right? And there's
Absolutely.
ways to do product management. I've seen product managers go into an interview with the customer and basically say, tell me exactly what feature you want. Tell me what you want it to look like. Tell me what color you want it, and I will go tell the engineers to build that. And,
I take the specification from the customers to
That's
the
right.
engineers.
I've
Sometimes my
seen these-
secretary does. I'm a people person.
Right, no, I've seen those things, and then I've also seen, but I mean, the reality is that I think real product management has to do with understanding your customers'
Yes.
problems
Yes.
more so than what they desire.
Absolutely.
Figuring out how to solve their problems perhaps in a way that they haven't anticipated, and that's a deeper thing.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
Um,
Very good point.
there's this other sort of overarching thing that occurs to me, and that is that if you think about the way that a company functions that sells a product, you have an engineering team, you have a product management team, you have a marketing team, you have a sales team, you have a finance team, you have a legal team, and you have management.
Yes.
When you are a startup, you have to do all of those things, and so you have to spend time thinking about each aspect.
Absolutely.
It's just this meta thing. Product management is one of the things that you have to decide that you're going to spend one of your time slices on.
Here's the other thing. When you're an engineer, do you think that you have the hardest job in the company? Like I used to think product management, I'm like, oh God, how do those guys, first of all, I thought, we'll talk about sales in a minute. I was like, how do these sales guys make this money? This is stupid. I'm way more valuable to the organization than sales. No, I suck to the organization because regardless of what I do, no money happens because of what I do. What gives you money is a sales guy calling and calling and calling and finding customers, finding prospects, qualifying them, understanding their needs, meeting their expectations, and basically checking all the check boxes they need, actually getting shit sold. And so that's another problem. As a hacker, you think you are top dog. No, fuck you. You're not top dog. all this other stuff. It's this 90% of things, doing product management, doing sales, doing marketing, doing legal, so you don't, get screwed when you sign an agreement. That is what is important, and that is what makes a company. And you need to think about that stuff. And it is, yes, I am a sellout. But it is all harder than you think it is. So Tom had a really good point. It's not, I'm glossing over it. It is not as simple as having a checklist and saying, customer who gave me X dollars wants to have wants a way to reset his password, right? Like, and wants it to look like this and be this color. If you're in that level of details, it's wrong. They might tell it to you, and you might have to, pull that level of information out of them, but that's not the detail level you should be recording it at. The problem is they need a way to better manage their account settings. Not only just changing their username and password, but changing their group affiliation and blah, blah, blah. So I need to make that better. Now, an example, let's actually talk about that. There's not an engineering solution to everything. It turns out we actually had some issues with with Zoom, you basically have users that are parts of groups and they can share information. And we had an issue where people were like, well, we need to be able to change groups. And it turns out not that our product needed to have that feature. It was part of our sales and initial account setup process. We did not do a very good job understanding what groups they needed to be in and how to slot them. The solution was not, we need a way to incorporate what is normally a kind of a billing and fulfillment feature into the product so they can move all around. It really was identifying a problem we had that was entirely unrelated to engineering. And we solved this problem without writing any code. But as a hacker, you're like, oh, I can make an awesome solution. I can use jQuery. It's going to fly in from the left. This is going to be awesome. No, screw you. It's not an engineering solution. And you need to be high enough level to realize that what these people are asking for is not an engineering solution and how to basically service their needs. Like I said, you're a whore, but it's not as sexual. All right, so product management. Get whatever you're doing. So this isn't really with services. This is really with a product company. Get in front of a customer ASAP. Because remember, for the longest time, I'm like, well, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. Like, we were doing consulting engagements. And by we, in this case, I mean we're doing consulting engagements, and I was writing all this code to basically power and do the service engagements. And I kept saying, oh, well, this what I'm working on, this isn't ready for a customer. It still needs to be able to do XYZ feature. Yeah, well, it turned out customer didn't care dick about XYZ feature. You need to get it in front of the customer ASAP. They will tell you what it needs. They will tell you, this is too rough. It doesn't need blah, blah, blah. I was talking with Nick upstairs. I'm like, oh, yeah, we finally added this feature that allows you to monitor a specific area of the website and then alerts you when performance changes by such a threshold. And Nick is like, holy crap, that's awesome. That is exactly what we need. We would use the product a lot more if you had that. I should have had that conversation with Nick 9 months ago. Right? Again, Nick, I'm sorry.
It's all right, Billy. I knew what I was getting into.
Yes,
Love you, brother.
He did it. So, but that's the thing. Get whatever you're building in front of a customer. There's this concept of, has anyone ever heard of a minimal viable product? You need to do like whatever it is. So basically, we built a product that would scan parts of your websites and give you a report. So to get this thing out the door, the scheduling process, like I would like to schedule a scan. Please, do a scan. That would email me, and I would stop what I was doing and go run this, and then manually load the scan results into a web page for you to see. Because I didn't spend the time to go ahead and set this up to be automated because I wanted to get it in front of customers. And I didn't have that many customers where, I was getting calls like, while I was at a movie theater or something. So do whatever you can to get this in front of customers as quickly as possible and start listening to their feedback. I always say, make it work and then make it great, right? Like, I don't care if it's awesome or elegant or even if it scales. Screw scaling, right? You just need to make it work and get income. Because who cares if you make an awesomely elegant solution and you spend 6 months doing it and you run out of money in 9 months, right? Like, who cares? You needed to get that in front of customers after 1 month. So that way you had 8 months of runway to try to see if this company would work. Because 3 months is nothing in a sales cycle. It's going to take you 1 month just to find people to talk to you. Get their feedback. So we use uservoice.com, puts a nice little widget on the side of our web interface. It says feedback, and you click it, and you can immediately start sending us stuff. Track that feedback and iterate as quickly as possible. So in this day and age, I mean, obviously it depends on the application. You would be stupid to write desktop software. Write it, run it in the cloud, right? Yes, the cloud is a buzzword, but you know what? I worked at traditional software companies where we had vendors or we had customers who were using something that was 3 major revisions behind. Because, oh, this thing requires that they install SQL Server or SQL Server Express 2008 instead of 2005. Oh, well, that doesn't work on Windows for, you know, X80 or X64-bit or whatever, that odd 64-bit version of Windows XP. And oh, it required this version of the .NET framework, which also necessitated blah, blah, blah. So they just couldn't do it. And so this customer, which was huge and was holding a lot of stuff back. Screw that, it's on the cloud. Zumpf does weekly rollouts. Every Sunday we roll a new version of our product. And frankly, I roll new versions of the product many times during the week because somebody will find a bug in our CSS parser that's like, it's not working. I'm like, oh, okay. So I find that and I fix it and I immediately push it out. And our customers, it seems. It's like Google Chrome, right? Who knows what version of Google Chrome they're using right now? I have no fucking idea because it auto updates, right? Same thing with a web interface. That's what you need. You want to get this stuff in front of people and iterate as quickly as possible. And then this is the best thing. Features magically appear. And they're like, holy crap. So suddenly using Zumpf, it's like a treasure hunt. Like, I don't know what's going to be there this time. Like, I open up, holy crap, I can monitor websites now. Come back and I was like, oh, awesome, I can capture traffic and I can upload it now instead of having to do a web crawl. So, it's almost like a game mechanic, right? So go ahead, take their feedback, iterate as rapidly as possible, and lower all barriers of entry to use your product, right? So there's a company in Atlanta called Dembala, which does kind of malware, high-end. Basically, they're able to detect command and control channels of botnets, and they're able to kind of be like a network telescope and tell you, hey, you have, whatever large company, AT&T, 4% of your machines over at this data center are compromised by off-the-shelf malware. Okay, that's great. Thank you for telling me. Problem is their barrier of entry to do a trial, they shipped you a 3U box and this PDF of how to install it in your data center, which was so complicated, they had to send a sales engineer on site for 2 days to set this up, for you to do a trial to decide whether you wanted to buy this from them. Ludicrously expensive, huge barriers for you to be able to try and use the product. But if it's a web interface or some type of SaaS product, or you have some way of doing a free trial, anything you can do to get this thing in the customer's hands so they can try and give you feedback, you should do it, because it's going to give you information about how to make your product better, and it's going to lead to more sales. Real quick, because I know this is going to start getting boring, so, well, if it's not already, so I'll try to talk faster, if that's even possible, is, all right, axiom number 4. You can always fix everything later. Absolutely always can fix everything later. And this goes against your hacker instinct, right? Like, you want to make it perfect. You want to make it elegant. No, screw elegance. You do not have time for it to be elegant. Every action, even if it's a poorly done action that ends up shooting you in the foot and you have to do something better later, doesn't matter. That is way better than saying, you know what, let me wait and see what happens. Or, oh, I think I know a better way of fixing that. So, the way we did scheduled jobs, we wrote this horrific hack which would basically manually add something to the Windows, like at runtime. And at one time for our Linux client, it would just stick a cron job on. It's like, we need to schedule it. Let's use cron for scheduling. Yeah, this is ridiculously insecure because we're basically allowing random people from the internet to add things to my cron table. Well, what the hell? I don't care. Let's get it out there and do it. Another thing we did, so we needed a feature to do screenshots. Like, we wanted to, when you did a scan of a website, take a screenshot of what it looked like on the web page when we did it. Getting a screenshot of a website is actually really complex. There's some projects out there that'll let you run Firefox in headless mode without X installed and redirect to like a frame buffer that you can capture. What we did, we wrote a hack where basically we would spawn IE, point it at the website you gave us, let it run for 15 seconds, capture the screen, and then because we knew where IE opened, we just cropped the picture using image magic. Now, also, Zumpf was really poor, so I had an XP ISO, but I did not have a valid user key for it. All the user keys that came in said, no, it didn't pass the Windows Genuine Advantage. So I wasn't able to patch it. This thing wasn't even running XP Service Pack 2. And this was like a year ago, or a year and a half ago. You could go to Zoom, plug in a URL, we would open it with an unpatched Windows XP box, stock or IE, point it at some website, run it, take a picture of it, stick it into your report. And so, like, lots of people started using it, a lot of people started liking this, and very quickly we're like, holy crap, let's prop that up. But now let's also, at the same time, be researching how can we do this better. And we were able to get that up in time to actually have some people at Google link to some of the stuff we were doing. So a huge increase in traffic, and a lot of people saying, we really like your features, even though they were placing everyone at dangerous risk of malware, mainly me, because it was running off a, that machine was actually running not at the data center at Rackspace, but actually off a cable modem at my house. On my internal network, right? Like we natted it. You can always fix it later. By a surprising coincidence, I had to cancel my credit card about 2 months later. I don't really know how someone was able to install a keylogger on that machine, but anyway, so you can always fix it later. Remember, just do something. You do not have time, especially because this whole idea that it doesn't cost a lot of money to start a startup. It's not like you're sitting on 100K and you can just burn it, right? Trying to figure out the best way. You're probably doing this in the evenings. You're probably not going out to, taking your wife out to dinner or stuff to pay for this. So, you're doing it on a very slim budget. You need to try to get results as quickly as possible. Pricing, and let me try to wrap this up because I know I'm going long and Tom still has his awesome drunken rant to do. But here's the thing. You almost always underprice your products. I was talking to a customer once, or we were putting together a proposal, and they're like, how much is this? And we gave them a number, and they're like, yes. Like, immediately, the guy's like, yeah. Will you take a corporate AMX? Like, right there, I'm like, I could have doubled it, and he still would have said yes. So here's the thing. Think about, there's a joke, Tom told me this, that when Chris Klaus at ISS went to try to sell the first copy of Internet Security Scanner, they go to this company, and they're like, hey, Klaus thinks up a price, and who was this person with Noonan? Tom Noonan's with him, and Tom Noonan's like, no, we're going to double that. And then they look at it again, and they doubled it again, gave them that price. So 4 times the price they thought they should charge for it, and the company's like, done. We're going to buy this right, I will write you a check right now. So first of all, there's a difference between consumer pricing and enterprise pricing. Often enterprise pricing, here's the funny thing. If you're selling an enterprise product and it costs less than $5,000, nobody will buy it because they'll be like, it costs less than $5,000. It can't be that good, right? Like they associate cost as a somehow qualifier of value. So a lot of times you actually can price your product so low that people will just not think that you're worth it. Here's the way to think about pricing. Think about what are you replacing. So Zumpf basically is an automated tool that analyzes and finds performance problems. How do people do this now? Well, they do it manually, or they use a couple free tools that are browser plugins, and they have to visit every single page. So how much time are we freeing up? How much is an employer paying for that person's time? And here's the other thing to think about. So let's say there's a QA guy, and you build a tool that basically could replace a QA guy. And a QA guy, let's say, he makes $60,000 a year. Well, that doesn't mean you should charge $60,000 for your product. You actually should charge $100,000 for your product. And the reason is that just because the QA guy makes $60,000 a year, the company to keep him on payroll, it doesn't cost him $60,000 a year. It costs him probably about $100,000 a year because you have to pay benefits, you subsidize their health insurance, you have payroll taxes, you have all of these things. So it actually is a lot more. So you say, what am I saving? Am I freeing up a person? Zumpf lowers your bandwidth bill. It also makes your website faster. So, you have less shopping cart abandonment, more people sign up for your newsletters or whatever your call to action conversion is. Look at comparable products. So Zumpf is a performance efficiency tool. How much are people paying for load testing? First of all, has anyone ever bought load testing products or used them? When I left Hewlett-Packard made $700 million in fiscal year 2009 selling load testing products. Load testing products, which pretty much consisted of spin up a bunch of virtual users and ping this box. $700 million for ping, right? Seriously, I could not believe it. So what's the cost of a comparable product? How much are they selling it for? Are you doing something similar? Also remember the approval process. So just because front end like let's go back to the pen test example, right? Like I'm a pen tester, you know, I use Metasploit and I use some other free stuff that I think is pretty awesome. And oh, I couldn't imagine spending, you know, 10 grand or 40 grand for a pen test product. Well, you don't buy it, your boss buys it. And your boss doesn't care about X, Y, and Z. He cares about the reports, the fact that it meets X, Y, Z criteria that he was told to do. So think about who is involved with approving the product that you are developing and make sure that the feature set appeals to them and what are the types of products that they're already paying for. You know, so if you sold to a great example is IT operations. They are always under pressure to do more with less. IT operations tend to have a large budget for tools and not a large budget for personnel. So if you can make a tool that frees up personnel, and so suddenly one administrator can now support, you know, 200 boxes instead of being able to support, you know, 175 boxes, they'll buy that. Pretty much regardless of what it costs, they will buy that because they want to make their people more efficient. So think about what the product's actually doing. This is kind of the final slide, so sales. Sales is way more complex than you think it is. Literally, when I started, I thought sales was, I have a product, I like your product, I think we should buy this. Great, well, you can send a check to blah, blah, blah. No, it does not work that way. First of all, you should identify who is your ideal customer, right? You're gonna get a lot of people, hopefully, if you're lucky, if you're doing good, people are gonna be interested in your product. But again, just the same way you have to prioritize how you spend your time doing tasks, if you have so we've got a form on our website where you can do a free scan and you give us your email address. I've got, you know, 7,000 email addresses, right? Last year we did 16,000 scans, right? I have 7,000 email addresses. Who do I talk to first, right? So I go ahead and I do an Alexa lookup on the website they scanned and their email address, like what company are they a part of? And our ideal customer is somebody who has a large number of websites that change frequently, or a small number of websites that they derive some or all of their revenue from, either because they're an e-commerce site or they're a news site and they get advertising. So if you are small, I shit you not, there's a company called Dogwood Ceramics that have been using our free report forever. They're this small, it's like the fastest freaking website ever. They actually have a performance score comparable to Facebook. And they make, like, you know, ceramic pots and stuff for architectural, you know, like outside landscaping, and they're in like Kentucky, right? And they're Alexa ranked, they're not even listed in Alexa because they're so small. They use us a lot, never call on them. I probably never will call on them because they're not big enough. And I've got a big list of other people to contact. So they're not my ideal customer. So go ahead, make kind of a demographic of who would be the ideal person for you to sell this to. And then when you're looking at salespeople or prospects, you score them and you say, how close is this to my ideal customer? And you rank it, and that's how you spend your time talking to people. Also understand how budgets work. There is not a giant pot of money inside of a company that everything comes out of. Literally, again, this is something I thought. This is how naive I was. I'm like, oh, you like my product? Your company is not in the red, it's making money, so you should have money. No, no, no. Budgets don't work that way. Budgets get allocated annually. They have certain tools that they already are using that they need to continue to pay, and then they have a certain amount of money. Some of that money is set aside for new hires or raises. Some of that money is set aside to buy new tools. When is their budget? Does their budget start in January or does it end in January? If you go and talk to somebody in December and they're going to be like, oh, well, you know, our fiscal year started 2 months ago and we've already allocated 80% of our budget for the year. I have already made my decisions about the tools I'm going to buy this year. Thank you, goodbye. Right? Like, understand that. A lot of companies, if they're publicly traded companies, you know when their fiscal year is. But usually it follows the calendar year. Incidentally, if you're a consultant, now is the perfect time to buy. This is going to be your busiest time of year because businesses or, you know, IT operation shops, they still have money left in their budget. And if they don't spend it by the end of the year, they lose it. So they're looking for training for their team or security consultants to come in from the outside. So you kind of need to understand how these cycles work and understand how you actually can get in and talk to the right people. Also understand how approval works. So just because pen tester likes your security product, that doesn't mean anything because that pen tester doesn't have fiduciary power. He is not allowed to say, I'm going to buy this tool. Maybe even his boss isn't authorized to spend more than $5,000 without getting his whatever his boss's approval. You also have technical buyers. So there might be something that says, look, we are we're a hospital. We have to comply with HIPAA. So unless your product has XYZ features, we can't buy you. So even if your product's awesome and it's cheap and they want to buy you, they can't because regulation or you don't have XYZ feature that allows them to be in compliance with what they have to be. So you need to understand that about your customers. All of these are things that you need to understand. And all of this kind of affects your selling approach. There are a lot of books about sales. There's only one that I recommend. It's by a guy, I don't know their first names. It's Miller and Hyman. And they have a book called Strategic Selling, which basically it's about in any type of sale where there's more than one person that has to say yes. You need to understand what does that person need, what needs need to be fulfilled for that person to say yes. And you kind of identify those and you're able to understand how to speak to that person. So I highly recommend it. It's called Strategic Selling. The other thing is that in a sales funnel, sales is not, yes, I want that, buy it. You have to gather prospects. You have to qualify them. You're going to get a ton of people using your free product that, like for example, I've got a ton of people from the Ukraine using Zumpf. They are never going to buy my product because a lot of them, first of all, it spits out stuff that's not in the language they understand. They can understand blah, 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 blah. Your, Nginx configuration is wrong and here's a snippet, but they can't read most of it. Like those people are never going to buy my product. So they are not a qualified lead. I do not spend time talking to people from the Czech Republic. Understand what their needs are, closing the deal, fulfillment. All of this stuff is covered in any type of sales book. Also, so you want to leverage your contacts, leverage people that you know. LinkedIn is fantastic. When somebody uses your product and they give you an email address, often it's like name.lastname@company. Go look them up on LinkedIn. Find out who they are. What's their title? Who do they report to? Do you have a referral? So somebody we have been trying to sell into and have contacts is Fox Interactive Media, which handles a lot of not just Fox News, but like all of the Fox Searchlight pictures, a lot of web properties. So we say, okay, great. We've got some pretty good security contacts, myself and other people that work at Zoom. Do we know somebody who knows somebody that works at that company and can give me an introduction? And also knowing your ideal customer criteria gives you an idea of the type of people that you want to talk to. So for us, anybody who pays money to Akamai should be a customer of Zoom's because they have made the decision that performance is so important, they're willing to spend money on it. So if they're willing to give money to Akamai, they should give money to us because we make your site way faster than Akamai does. So you go ahead and you get a list and you say, who are the customers or companies that use Akamai? Awesome, there's my list. LinkedIn, who do I know at those companies or who do I know who knows somebody at those companies? Definitely leverage people that you know, get referrals. Sales guys are awesome for this. Try to get a sales guy as quickly as possible. What you can normally do, if you've ever worked at a company and you had a sales guy that wasn't sleazy, go talk to them. Because a lot of times sales guys will do basically contract sales, where they will work for a commission. So you don't pay them a base salary, but they get 25% of any product that they sell for a year. And they are awesome because they have a Rolodex that you have no access to. And that's what Zoom we brought in somebody that I'd worked with in the past, and he's awesome. And he's closing deals right and left because he can talk to people that would never take a call from me because they have no idea who I am. So definitely leverage all of your contacts. Remember, only 10% of startups are successful. So 90% of startups fail right off the bat. So you are the chance of you succeeding are really, really small. But at the same time, the cost of you trying is like nothing. You're talking, $60 a year to have an email address, $10 a month to host a website somewhere. We spent about $1,000 or $2,000 to get somebody to design a website that was better than what I could do. This stuff does not cost a lot of money. We run all of our stuff through Rackspace. It costs us $100 a month. So it's not likely that you will succeed, but if you've got a good idea, try, because people with stupid ideas make money all of the time. So, whatever your idea is, try it. I hope this has not been a pessimistic talk. There's a lot, I encourage you, try anything. If you've got an idea, do it. But just keep in mind that everything that makes you a good hacker is going to make it very difficult for you to run a startup. So understand you have to be diligent about how you control your time. You have to be extremely diligent about what you do with your money. You need to incorporate to protect yourself. And it's not just about you, it's about making sure that, your family doesn't have to declare bankruptcy. There's a lot of stuff that you need to put in place. But it's not that hard, and every day it gets cheaper, and most of the forms and templates and everything is on the internet. So, reach out, do this, because it's awesome, but, understand the things you're going to need to do to make this successful. You can't just sit there, whittle away, make the ultimate tech product, put it on a rinky-dink website, and think that customers will find you, because they never will. That's about tracking sales and questions.
Do you use Salesforce?
Yes, Salesforce is fantastic. So Salesforce is a great way of basically tracking who have I talked to at this company? Is this person that emailed me to ask about XYZ, have I ever talked to them before? Did I talk to their boss already? You need a centralized way of managing people. Salesforce can be kind of expensive early on. I think it's like $600 a year per user. And we have 3 users. But it's worth its weight in gold. You can do this using a spreadsheet starting out, but it very rapidly, it becomes very difficult to scale, and Salesforce is fantastic.
Yeah, I have a question. Let's say I'm a graduate student and we have like 4 or 5 people who want to start up a company. So what advice would you give us, in terms of how, everything we talked about?
What advice would I give you now that you're starting?
Because when we go to customers, they would say like, even though we have the skill set to do their whatever they want to offer them services, but they will say, I don't know you guys. Who are you? You may say that you can do X, Y, Z stuff, but you are the new guy. Why should I?
Sure. So getting customers and getting credibility is, you have to bootstrap. Like, it's a catch-22. Like, how will somebody trust you if you don't already have customers, but how do you get customers if nobody trusts you? So you normally do this by being way cheaper than anybody else, because people would be like, okay, well, I'm willing to risk it on somebody new. Or you have really good messaging about why what I offer is better than what you get somewhere else. And also, this is why you can't be a dick to people like Nick. You need to cultivate customers and then make them reference customers. So you can be like, oh, you know what? You guys are very similar to this company that already is a customer of ours. Why don't you talk to them, ask them any questions about how it is working with us or how we've been able to help them. And that's why I said it very much, it grows exponentially, because as soon as you get 1, 2, or 3 customers, then you can start referencing other people to those, and it grows. I would say if you're starting out and you guys are mainly technical, go reach out to, well, first of all, there's a couple organizations. They're all in Atlanta, but I know these exist elsewhere. I'm trying to think of their names. Basically, they're like startup schools, things where you're basically able to go and like give a product pitch, and these people are retired executives, and they basically grade you. They give you referrals. Normally, these things operate like Fight Club, where if this is your first meeting, you have to give a pitch, or everybody who shows up has to give a product pitch, and everybody else will critique you. And you go through this several times, and pretty much it gets down to, in 30 seconds, you're able to say, what your product does and why it's awesome. So, Zoom builds software to help website owners find and fix performance problems that are slowing down their site. The primary people that buy us are QA developers who want to automate performance testing and web developers who want to fix problems as soon as they find them, or as soon as they happen and fix them. The value proposition is that we decrease your operational costs, such as bandwidth and server consumption, while increasing shopping or increasing revenue, conversion rates, shopping cart abandonment. There you go. So you should be able to very distinctly, in 30 seconds, explain what you do and why it's awesome and why somebody should give you money. And after that, it's just repetition and, to be honest, luck.
You don't know how disgusted I am to be at a HackerCon and see what business talk.
I know. I am a story sellout. Awesome. Any other questions? Awesome. All right, I will not stand before you between you and a real hacker, which is Tom Cross, who actually knows what he's talking about. But thanks a lot. I hope this will help you.